I've spent nearly $1,500 on my video game collection this month. I've got 4 Switch games, 9 Xbox games, 27 PlayStation games, 2 Wii U games and a new console. Hey guys, it's Adam and let me show you what I've got. So like I mentioned previously, this month's theme was about getting those console games that I still wanted to buy brand new instead of buying them second hand. And some of these games, especially the older Xbox One games and PlayStation 4 games, are really hard to get nowadays factory sealed from stores. So I wanted to buy everything that I still could before they ran out. And even then I still didn't manage to get every single one that I wanted, but I did manage to get a lot of the games that I was looking for. So let's go over all of them. Let's actually start with Switch games because they are on top of the pile. So starting with Pikmin 4 that was released this month, the newest edition for the Pikmin series, with which I've actually also got a pack of, I believe these are fridge magnets, and I've also got Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I've already had the Let's Go Pikachu version, but I haven't had the Eevee version and I want to complete the set. Then we have Octopath Traveler. Okay, I think a couple of months ago I've showed Octopath Traveler 2 that I've purchased when it was released with the Steelbook, and because I still didn't have Octopath Traveler 1, I wanted to get that for the set as well. Then we have The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which was the next in the chronological order or in the timeline that I'm playing these Zelda games nowadays. As you can probably tell from the seal, it's already been opened. I usually open games by carefully tearing the opening seal, so I can just slide the top and the bottom of the seal off, take the game out and slide the seal back on. So it actually protects the game case from scratches and things like that. By the way, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Remake, I've already played it, I've already finished it. In fact, I've actually 100%ed it and I've loved every minute of it. So maybe a review coming up, I'm not sure about that, but it was a lovely game, amazing graphics, love the art style, and the gameplay was also quite enjoyable. So now we got to Xbox games, and I've got a couple of surprises here. For example, Gears of War Judgment for the Xbox 360, and you can probably see that it is in fact factory sealed, which is quite interesting because this game was released back in 2013 with the console, or maybe a little bit after that. Then to not dive into another series, I will keep at Gears of War with Gears of War 4 and Gears of War Tactics that I've got this month. Gears of War Tactics was very interesting because it was very cheap. It was only like $2 or something like that, and I was kind of surprised by it because it's a physical release, it is factory sealed, it is an Xbox Series X release, and it was only $2, like, I don't know why, but that's fine. And so we have Gears of War 4 as well, which was also a very big surprise because I've only seen digital versions being sold, even in stores, physical stores. They are only selling the digital code for this. So I managed to find a single store in the whole country where they still had this in stock, and it is an English cover version, so that's even better. Now that's about Gears of War for now, so let's go back to a different series, Forza Horizon. I've got Forza Horizon 4 and Forza Horizon 5 this month. I think I've got Forza Horizon 3 last month, and I still haven't managed to get Forza Horizon 1 and 2. Sadly, those are absolutely out of stock. And in fact, I think those were released for the Xbox 360, which means I don't necessarily want to collect them factory sealed, which will make it drastically easier. But they did release the second game for the Xbox One, and I wanted to get that version, but it seems like that ship has sailed, sadly. Then moving on with the Halo series, and I'm going to be showing these games in packs or in series, because as you can see there's a lot of them, and if I show all of them one by one, this video is going to be like 45 minutes. So, for the Halo series, we've got Halo 5, we got Halo Infinite and Halo Wars 2. Now Halo 5 I've already had in a previous month's video. I think a couple of months ago I got Halo 5 from Amazon, but it was sadly a resealed copy, not a factory sealed version. It had like scratches on the box underneath the seal, so it was definitely like used and resealed, which is why I decided to return it. And the one I managed to get factory sealed is, as you can see, is a German cover version, which I'm not really happy about, but the one that I've returned to Amazon, they've actually refunded me the game without me having to send it back. and that was an English cover version. So what I'm thinking is that when I eventually open this to actually play the game, I will just switch the covers, like the actual paper that's in here, and then I will have a brand new English cover Halo 5. And so after that, obviously Halo Infinite and Halo Wars 2, which I've managed to get factory sealed. It's surprisingly in stock almost everywhere, but not Halo Wars 1 or Halo Spartan Assault. Although I'm not sure if Spartan Assault even had a physical release. I do have it on my wishlist, but I will see if I can even find it. Then for a different game, last month I think I've showed that I've got Mass Effect Andromeda for the Xbox Series X or Xbox One, I guess. And this month I've got the Legendary Edition, which includes the remasters for Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. Probably one of my most favorite series in gaming in general. Back when I played Mass Effect 1 and 2, I was absolutely in love with them. Mass Effect 3 was a little bit of a disappointment. Most of the game was nice. It was a little bit sad. You know, it wasn't really building up to a happy ending, obviously. Some companions have passed away, which I wasn't really happy about. And obviously the ending was a disaster. They later released Citadel DLC, which I think I have read that improved the ending of the game a bit, but I haven't played it myself, so I can't really tell. But the standard ending for Mass Effect 3 was an absolute disaster. Hopefully this remastered edition also includes the Citadel DLC, so when I actually end up playing the remastered version, I will be able to experience that as well. So moving on to PlayStation games, let's also do those in packs instead of individually. Starting with a couple of Ratchet & Clank games, and all of these are factory sealed, which was very much a surprise because getting PlayStation 3 games factory sealed, that's not easy, and especially Ratchet & Clank series, which is a very popular series. I thought all of these would already be purchased up by all of the collectors out there, but turns out I found a very small console store in the country, and they had all of these on the shelf, factory sealed, so I actually took all of them, and surprisingly they were actually cheaper than some of the second-hand used games that I found online. Anyways, we got Ratchet & Clank Trilogy, which is a remaster of the first 3 games. Then we have Q-Force, which is an original PlayStation 3 game, and we got Into the Nexus, which I believe is the game leading up to Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, the PlayStation 5 release. After that I've got Devil May Cry 4, probably one of the best games in the series. I've actually played it multiple times, I mean in a New Game Plus sense, you know, replaying it multiple times to increase your max health and to fight stronger and stronger enemies. This one I've got second hand from the same store. It was really cheap, but I couldn't find the PlayStation 4 version. They have released a special edition for Devil May Cry 4 for the PlayStation 4, but I couldn't find a physical release for it. I'm not even sure if it was released physically at all, because I couldn't even find any traces of physical releases, so maybe it was a digital only, or maybe it was US only, because I live in Europe and I couldn't find any trace of it. So maybe I will try to find it on Amazon or something, but for this month I've decided to get the PlayStation 3 version. And keeping at Devil May Cry, I've got 3 Devil May Cry games for the PlayStation 4, starting with the Devil May Cry HD Collection, which includes Devil May Cry 1, 2 and 3, which I haven't actually played. I've only played the 4th. And after 4 they've released DMC Devil May Cry, which I think is one of the most controversial episodes in the series. It turned the main character into more of this emo style character, and I don't think many people were happy about it. At least that's kind of what I got from reviews and forum conversations back in the day. But this is the definitive edition. Hopefully it's a little better, and as you can probably tell, it had some awful price tag sticker on it, which I had to scrape off and didn't manage to get it off properly. So I will have to use some alcohol for that, but after that we got Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition for the PlayStation 5. And I've heard that this is actually a very good game, so I'm looking forward to playing it. I really liked Devil May Cry 4, and hopefully this will be something similar to that. Moving on to a different series, it's time to talk about Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy VII, because I've got a couple of games related to that. But first let's start with Strangers of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. This, I believe, is the very first game in the series, or technically the game before Final Fantasy I. So it's kind of like a prequel to the original game. Then I've got Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion, which is a prequel for the Final Fantasy VII, for the PlayStation 5. This is the upscaled and 60 frames per second version. I think it was originally released for the PSP or maybe in the PS Vita, but they have re-released it for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 and maybe even the Switch as well. And then we have the remake of Final Fantasy VII itself, the remake Intergrade for the PlayStation 5, which is the upscaled version from the original PlayStation 4 version. Now this was actually one of those games that is released for the PlayStation 5. It was released a couple of years ago maybe, so it's technically a new game. And I couldn't get this in my country, in Europe. So I had to order it from Amazon, but luckily that was to my advantage, because usually the price of this is like 4 times in this country. So getting it from Amazon, I got quite a discount comparatively. Moving on in the series, we've got Final Fantasy VIII Remake, or I guess remaster. Yeah, it is only a remaster for the original Final Fantasy VIII for the PlayStation 4. And coming also from Amazon, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, which I think includes all of the DLC for Final Fantasy 15. I've recently watched Kingsblade Final Fantasy 15, which was an animated movie for Final Fantasy 15. I think it was a prequel to the game. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I read that it's after the first chapter of the game and before the rest of the game, so it kind of sits in between the game's story itself. And I really loved the movie. It was very visually pleasing and the story was fine. So it got me thinking that I kind of wanted to play Final Fantasy 15. It got me hyped for Final Fantasy 16 as well. Probably that's why Netflix suggested me that movie. But anyway, let's move on to the Tomb Raider series. Now this was one of my favorite video games back in my childhood. And it also has these awful price tag stickers on it. Well, this one came off quite cleanly. Hopefully this other one will do the same. Yeah, I will need alcohol for this one as well. Alright, so for Tomb Raider series, I've got the full Survivor series for the PlayStation 4. We've got Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, which is the first release in this Survivor series. Then we have Rise of the Tomb Raider, the 20-year anniversary edition, which I think is also kind of a definitive edition, or like it includes the DLC or something like that. And Shadow of Tomb Raider, from which I couldn't get the price tag sticker off, but this is also a definitive edition, and I think it also includes all the DLC that was released for the game. So the Tomb Raider collection is now finished. I've actually had Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness back for the PlayStation 2, I think, and I really loved it. I think it was related to the Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie that was released about that time. The weapon in the game was exactly the same as in the movie, and the movie got me really hyped for that game, so I bought that and I really loved that. And that's why I'm collecting Tomb Raider games for the PlayStation, even though they are multi-platform, or at least nowadays they are multi-platform. But I think some of them used to be PlayStation exclusive as well. And I've personally got Tomb Raider for the PlayStation first, although I did play, I don't remember what was the subtitle, but it was Tomb Raider 4 for the PC, which I've played. That was also quite enjoyable. I've also finished the original Tomb Raider survival game, the first one in the series. I've purchased it on Steam and I played it on PC. That was really great, so I decided to buy the whole series. And moving on to a different series, we got the Yakuza series. Not exactly the Yakuza games, but the spin-offs. Judgment, Lost Judgment, and Back to Yakuza Like a Dragon. This one has a different protagonist, but I think the original one is still in the story. So I'm curious to see, because this one also changed the combat system. I think it changed into a turn-based combat, which it previously wasn't. But the reviews are quite nice, so hopefully that will be quite a nice game. And so the Judgment series, Judgment and Lost Judgment, or I guess I should be putting them like this, right? And I think this is kind of a detective series, or like the main character is a policeman, I think. And I generally really like detective games, so curious how this will play out. But it does have the same engine as the other Yakuza games, so in terms of visuals and the world, I think it's exactly the same. Then we have a couple of racing games, starting with Gran Turismo Sport, with these awful distributor stickers. I still don't understand why they need to put these on. And then we have Need for Speed Heat, which was still available in pretty much every store. But one thing that was really hard to get, and I was looking for this for months, is the 2015 edition of Need for Speed, which I think is one of the best releases of Need for Speed since Underground 1 and 2. Although I've heard great things about Heat, and I've watched quite a few videos of like building cars in Need for Speed Heat, and that looked great, so I think both of those games are going to be very fun to play. Then moving on, I've got a couple of random games, and as you could probably tell, I didn't show all of these games in an alphabetical order because that would have taken a bit too much time. So I just packed them up into series. But these one are one-offs. For example, Metro Exodus, the complete edition for the PlayStation 5. Then we have another sticker on this one, which isn't even a price tag. It's a barcode sticker. Like, why does it need to be on the front? I mean, at least put it on the back, right? So anyways, we got Tekken 7 Legendary Edition, and I think it's my most favorite fighting game. I definitely prefer it over Mortal Kombat, although that game is also great, so nothing to complain about. And we have Trials of Mana, and I will have to cover this one because it also has I think a DLC code or something. I mean, it does have the disc in it, so it's not a digital edition, but it does have a code on the front. I didn't know that it had a DLC, so I'm curious to what that code is. But anyways, I haven't claimed that. That's why I'm covering it. Then I've got Ni no Kuni, the remastered version for the PlayStation 4. I originally wanted to get this series, Ni no Kuni 1 and 2, for the Switch, but I've realized that they used to be PlayStation exclusive. I think they were released back in PlayStation 3 era, so I've decided that I will be getting these for the PlayStation because they are meant to be on the PlayStation, even though they have been released on pretty much every platform since then. But I don't really care about which platform I'm playing a game on. I mostly play at home on my TV. So even if I'm playing a PC game, I hook it up to the TV and play with the controller most of the time, except for maybe like shooter games, like for example Cyberpunk. I'm planning on playing on the PC with actual keyboard and mouse on a PC monitor. But most of these controller-friendly games I will be playing on the TV anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me if it's on Switch, if it's on PlayStation or Xbox. And I actually kind of value it a little bit more to have it on the console that it was meant to be on, rather than just getting it on whatever console. Like for example, I still have a lot of Xbox games and I still don't own an Xbox One or a Series X, so I can't even play them. But I will be getting an Xbox later on, so it doesn't really matter. I have plenty of other games to play until I get an Xbox. So I prefer to just collect games onto consoles where they make more sense to have them. And speaking of collecting games on console that make more sense, Crash Bandicoot 4 for the PlayStation 4. Sadly, they didn't have a PlayStation 5 release for this. They do have a PlayStation 5 upgrade, as it says on the cover, but they didn't actually release it in a physical manner for the PlayStation 5. Then I've got an awfully big sticker. Let's see if it comes off clean. Oh, that comes off really nicely, actually. Oh, that's so nice to see. Oh, there we go. If all of these stickers would come off so easily, that would be lovely. Oh, it has a little bit of damage on the front, but I managed to get Trek to Yomi, the deluxe edition for Trek to Yomi for the PlayStation 5, which is a very interesting samurai game. It's presented in black and white as it shows on the cover itself. The whole game is in black and white like this. And the deluxe edition also has an art book, which is one of my weak points besides steelbooks, so I just had to get this. And lastly, the only game I can actually show here right now is Star Fox Zero for the Wii U. It is a factory sealed version, which I got kind of cheap actually. I didn't realize you can still buy Wii U games. I originally wanted to collect these second hand because I thought I had to, but turns out I can actually buy some of them factory sealed. And I just noticed, what's that in the camera? Oh, that's just my gym towel. Okay. Anyways, and finally, the biggest expense this month was buying a Wii U for playing Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And as you can see, it actually has Twilight Princess running on it, because I did get it with the game itself, which was kind of a surprise because I've managed to buy it not only at a very reasonable price, or I guess I could say kind of a cheap price, but I also got Twilight Princess with it. And I think a previous month I've shown that I've purchased the Wind Waker, so now I have both games and the Wii U to play it, so it's time to actually play them. Twilight Princess is going to be the next game in the series that I play. After that comes Wind Waker, and at that point I'm going to stop playing the timeline and just jumping into Breath of the Wild, and I will be leaving the rest of the games to play later. Like for example the Oracle games that have just been released for Nintendo Switch Online, I've decided to play them after Breath of the Wild, maybe even after Tears of the Kingdom, you know, just to leave some classic Zelda games to jump back to later on. So I think this one is the one that I'm mostly happy about, that I finally got a Wii U, and it's in mint condition. It pretty much doesn't even have any scratches on it, which is very, very surprising. Considering it, I didn't even buy it second hand. I think I've bought it like third hand or something. Like, I think it had multiple owners previously. Oh, let me turn this off quickly. It doesn't need to run right now. So the whole console is in mint condition. I did purchase it used, but it looks like it was never even used, and I did get it at a pretty good price with the game. So that was a very lucky purchase to crown off the month. I've since then started playing Returnal on my PlayStation 5 because I didn't have access to playing Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, which were the upcoming games in the chronological order. So I decided to play Returnal, which I just finished yesterday. I haven't completed it, but I did finish the story yesterday, and I think it was very confusing by the end. So I think there is one more cinematic, or like a secret ending, as people are calling it online, and I'm hoping that will explain the story a little better, because by the end it was very confusing to me. Like, is the main character just dreaming the whole thing? Or is this even real? Like it just, like, I just had more questions than I had before after playing the game, which was very interesting. But the gameplay itself is amazing. It is a very hard game, so if you are kind of a casual, I don't necessarily recommend playing Returnal, because you might not have as much fun. But I guess it could be a good game to improve your gaming skill as well. So it's obviously totally up to you if you would like to give it a try. It looks great, it plays great, so I'm going to be playing it tonight as well to continue finishing off the game. I've got a couple of trophies left, I've got a couple of data cubes, research entries, and a lot of things to do. So after that will come Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD before I can finally start playing Breath of the Wild. And I'm very excited that I actually feel kind of in the finish line. Previously, because I didn't have a Wii U, I didn't really have any idea how am I going to actually play through the series. And to be fair, I originally wanted to play through every single Zelda game, but I've decided that I will be skipping some of them, like the DS games, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. I will be skipping the Oracle games and Four Swords Adventures, which is a co-op game and I don't really have 4 other people to play it with. And also Link Between Worlds for the Nintendo 3DS. So I will be skipping those games, or I guess I should rather say I'm postponing those games to play after Breath of the Wild, because I don't necessarily feel like that playing those before Breath of the Wild would add too much to the experience. After reading online about it, I think the main 3D games is what I really need to play to understand all of the references in Breath of the Wild, which is one of the main reasons I'm playing through the timeline before Breath of the Wild, because I would like to understand all of the references and get to know all of the characters. So Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker is all I have left, and before buying a Wii U, I had no idea how am I going to play them, although I did have a friend who offered me that I could borrow his console, but I wasn't really comfortable with that. But because I wanted one in my collection anyway, and I had this very good offer that I found online, I decided to just take it, and I don't have to worry about scratching someone else's console, or don't have to worry about borrowing it for multiple months, because I'm not really quick to playing through games due to a limited amount of time I have. So I didn't want to borrow someone else's console for months at a time. So now that I have my own, I'm in the finish line for playing through the timeline, at least the part of the timeline that I'm planning on playing through. So I'm really excited about this month, because this will be the month when I finish Returnal and start Twilight Princess. So to finish off this video, here are all the video games I've got this month. I hope you have a fun August, I wish you the best. Thank you so much for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.